Hello, everybody. My name is Costa, aka the Greek Koala, and I have got a treat for you, lovely folks. VGCCC Season 2. In other words, the VGC Casters Cup. And yes, there is a Season 2. What was that? Was there even a Season 1 on my channel? No, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, there was. And warning to anybody that will end up seeing those videos, which of course I will be uploading at some point in the near future. I am hoping. I will, I promise. I hope. Spoiler warning, the results. 3, 2, 1. I did not win, unfortunately. That was clearly the goal, as I'm totally not hyper competitive. But I did come third/fourth. Never actually played the match against Jake. I should actually maybe chase that up. Who knows? Probably a bit too late. But regardless, we came third/fourth. So we reached the semis. Unfortunately, did not reach all the way to the finals. But redemption is upon us. Season 2 is here. And now, instead of regulation set H, it's going to be featuring F. As the previous season, this is a snake-style draft league made purely for official Pokemon casters across all competitive Pokemon games. So that includes Go as well as TCG. And at the moment, not Unite. We haven't been able to recruit one of those lovely folks, but who knows? Maybe in the future we shall. Regardless, this tournament is hosted by myself, as well as my fellow Greek, the GOAT, Bubblus, and with lovely graphic support provided by the ever so talented CP Marcus and logo plus edits done by my lovely wife Kate. So, enough of all that. Now, 14 caster coaches, rather than 16 versus previous season, but drafting 8 Pokemon between tiers S to E, followed by a separate budget system of 130 points, which then allows everybody to sort of draft 4 more free agents, in other words, by using that tiering of the point scale. Best of 3 each week. Standings obviously decided by whoever wins, and all the rules and the document stuff will be down below, so make sure to go and check that out. Now, spoiler alert before we go and start looking into my team, I may or may not have drafted half of my team away during this thing called the grace period, which, yeah, I'll go into a bit more details afterwards about that. But that being said, who knows which one's going to be official or not? No, it's going to be this one. So we're going to start with the actual picks themselves. With, first of all, my S tier of the draft is none other than a Sneasler. Now, Sneasler, we know, has been an absolute demon in terms of previous formats, especially coming from a regulation set H format. But this is F, so that means Paradox Pokemon will be involved. That being said, it's just amazing in terms of what it can do, all of its capabilities. Poison fighting typing, which is super strong in terms of offensive prowess, 130 base attack, which is insanity, and the unburden ability with poison touch and pressure as additional things. But generally speaking, this mon is so good when paired up against, let's say, I don't know, just going to put it out there, terrain users, which may or may not be relevant to my strategy in terms of draft. But regardless, this Pokemon is insane. It is a big threat and something that my opponents are going to be having to look out for. A lot of coverage options as well, but I'm not going to go too much into detail. I don't want to spoil my lovely opponents in the future. But that being said, number 2, my boy, Torkoal. I had been wanting to draft Torkoal since Season 1. Is my trusty companion I've been able to get quite a bit of championship points at official tournaments with. And yeah, it's a weather setter. So with its drought ability, it brings the sun, which can benefit a lot of Pokemon going into this new format with so many photosynthesis users, essentially. So yeah, Trick Room oriented for sure, but it's got some tricks up its sleeve. It doesn't necessarily have to be ran in Trick Room, but with that being said, yeah, it usually is its go-to. But if these 2 first Pokemon didn't give you any sort of indication of what kind of, let's say, team archetype I was looking into drafting, maybe the next one will. Or maybe it will not, who knows? But I'll tell you what, Hisuian Typhlosion is amazing in terms of its immediate, no pun intended, firepower that it's able to, accompanied by the sun, for example. We've seen it in Reg H where Torkoal can have sort of a jetpack overheat shenanigans going, helping hand on the side to accompany Hisuian Typhlosion because of its typing as well. Ghost is immune to fake out users that don't have scrappy ability, for example, and just generally speaking, it's very, very strong, and it's able to benefit off of the ability known as Frisk, which in a draft lead format with closed team sheet but open terras, it is insanely powerful, and you're able to quickly scout out, let's say, both of your opponent's initial lead Pokemon, or whenever you hit the field. So very strong. Different sets can be ran. You've got the choice items. You've also got a couple of other various options that you can use if paired up with the appropriate partner. But that being said, very, very strong contender. I'm happy with, no doubt about it. And yeah, it sort of is there as a wall breaker. So, moving on, we have got the Hisuian Zoroark. Now, trickster by looks as well as in nature. It is a mischievous Pokemon, my second ghost type, but it has unique dual typing in the ghost as well as the normal typing, which means it's not only immune to regular fake outs, but also to ghost types because of the normal typing. It's so, so cool, and the first of its kind in terms of the dual typing pairing in particular. Now, it's actually pretty strong in terms of its damage output, in particular with the special attack, 125 base, but it is essentially paper thin, but very, I'd say, relatively respectable 110 speed base stats. So with its illusion ability, obviously, I can get up to no good. That's kind of what I'm doing, clearly. I've gone ahead, what have I drafted right now? I've drafted components of sun archetypes mixed with maybe some sort of terrain abuser in the form of the Sneasler, and Zoroark Hisui is a way to be able to further stupefy my opponents in terms of them not knowing, depending on which Pokemon I decide to try to trick them with, which real Pokemon's going to be on the field. So it's got a great way to be able to not only wall break, but also have some really cool utility moves. So I'm not going to go into further detail about it. Zoroark Hisui, welcome, my child. Next, now, this is a bit of a surprise pick. It is my first C tier, unlike my S, A, and double B just before. Grafaiai. So, apologies for anyone wearing headphones. This Pokemon gets Prankster. Now, it does have some interesting moves, as well as a signature move in Sketch, where it's able to essentially get itself, as well as its partner Pokemon, to copy the target of that move. Now, that can introduce some very fascinating interactions, of which I shall not reveal. However, it is a cool way to be able to absolutely disrupt the flow of my opponent, as well as allow me to have a Prankstermon, which, given its tiering, it's C tier. Prankstermons usually aren't that low unless maybe they're like pre-evos or something like that. But in this case, it was such a bargain because it does have access to some great utility moves, status moves that I'm going to be able to absolutely capitalize off of if I'm able to complete the general archetype of which I am chasing for. So not only that, I know I'm doubling up on the normal and poison typing, that being with Hisuian Zoroark as well as the Sneasler, but at this point, I don't care, because I have a role visualized with this Pokemon that it's supposed to complete, and that is the goal. And also, it does get unburdened. So if there may be a terrain user coming out at some point, it's going to be able to get that double speed. So I could go for further shenanigans, really, and trick my opponent into thinking, oh, it might be a Prankster, but no. If you've got any sort of Prankster blocking, I'll be able to circumvent that in a very interesting way. Now, I'm already revealing so much. Why am I revealing so much? Anyways, so moving on with the draft analysis. My math will be correct in assuming this is my sixth Pokemon. Yes. Six is the cheeky little Daxbun, which sometimes the pronunciation eludes me, but it makes kind of sense. So Daxbun, fairy typing, finally got one. It has very interesting abilities. Aroma Veil is able to essentially avoid any of my Pokemon going to sleep, but then Well-Baked Body. Now, for anybody that hasn't seen the duo of Hisuian Typhlosion and Daxbun, my lordy, are you in for a treat. It is amazing to what kind of end game scenarios you can develop and win just starting off from getting boosts in the form of a lava plume by the side of Hisuian Typhlosion, enabling or activating the Well-Baked Body. Not only is it an immunity to fire type moves on Daxbun, it also gives +2 in its physical defense in the form of 2 stages, which is amazing. It is so, so good. And yes, it does get body press. I checked this time, unlike Season 1, where I got tricked by the Hisuian. I wasn't going to say Slugma. Oh, my lordy. I was about to. No, it's the Gudra. Not Gudra. It's the other one. It's the Slidru. Slidru. There we go. I got there. I know what I'm saying. I do this for a living. Not. Moving on. On to the Daxbun points. It's got really respectable defense-based stat, so I'm happy with that. And an alright speed stat as well. So, accompanied by its fairy typing, which I have now sort of tried to go down the path of getting as much of a fantasy core as I can. It ticks the box, essentially. So yeah, I'm happy with it. It's a cute, Daxbun little doggo. Got a puppy recently, so yeah, I had to go with the doggo vibes. That's just how I roll. Now, pick number 7. Sorry, I just saw its I just saw the head. The head gets me every time. Oh, it's like I think it's a parody, but it's not. It's real life. So, Alolan Dugtrio. Now, this was... Oh, I'm not going to spoil Snipes just yet, but I may or may not have been sniped of the Cantonian form. Now, the Alolan form, though, it does have some really good stuff going for it. Aside from paper-thin defenses, and let's not even talk about that base 35 HP, it has got steel ground typing, which is really, really good in order for me to be able to sort of get those crucial Terra force scenarios of being able to allow, let's say, Pokemon such as Hisuian Typhlosion and Sneasler to be able to maybe sweep towards a mid to end game scenario. Now, it's got good speed, and if I do find a flying type Pokemon or a levitate user, I'll be able to get some earthquake shenanigans going on the side. But at least for now, Tangling Hair is its most notable ability. It's able to essentially get -1 speed stage enforced onto any Pokemon, opposing Pokemon, that comes into contact with it. Now, that could, once again, introduce some interesting scenarios. But yeah, I just wanted to go ahead, make sure I get a steel typing. I've got the ghost typing. I've got the fairy typing in terms of the different components that I was looking to be able to cover, and the ground typing, which is so crucial, I think, in any draft. You have to make sure you've got a ground type. If you do not have a ground type, you're probably not going to do well. Not looking at Costa of Season 1, which I was able to somehow get semifinals without one. But I'm looking to try to make amends so I could go further. Now, moving on, we have got the first E-tier, potentially the last. Who knows? I haven't revealed yet. But Daxbun being C-tier, now Skiploom being my E-tier choice. Now, you're probably thinking, Costa, there's a whole Jumpluff, but we're going to go into that information a bit later on. However, for now, it sort of fills the role. It's able to have a respectable 80 base speed stat. Obviously, let's not look at the rest, because it's not the best, but it's an Eviolite potential user. You can capitalize off of getting, both defenses boosted by 1.5 multiplier, which is fine. And obviously, something that needs to be called out, aside from the typing, which is good with the flying and grass, Great. It's the chlorophyll ability. Able to finally get my sun abuser in terms of support. Not necessarily, like full-blown damage. We've already discussed Hisuian Typhlosion. Now, having Tailwind is great. Having Redirection via the form of Rage Powder is fantastic. But also being able to capitalize off of getting some really cool utility moves going. It's got like Strength Sap, for example. It's got great ways to be able to essentially disrupt my opponent's side of the field. So, I'm clearly looking at Sleep Powder. I haven't mentioned it because I was hoping you, the audience, would get there. But in case you didn't, there you go. It's on your plate now. Enjoy. Hopefully my opponents will. That's the goal. And I don't do my usual record of going to a tournament and missing, I don't know, like 8 out of my 11 sleep powders that I have actually clicked the button on. Who knows? We'll find out. I don't know why I do this to myself, but apparently I do. So, Skiploom. Good on you, mate. Welcome to the club. Finally, here we go. Now, these final picks are the beginning of my free agents. This is my first free agent. If you don't know what a free agent means, go back earlier to the previous section that I mentioned it. And if you still don't know what a free agent is, good luck. Maybe check the document. I don't know. You know what I mean. So these are the 4 picks that I get to use my tier points on, basically. First one, female Ndidi. Legend. Honestly, absolute star. A true phenomenal Pokemon that ever since it got Trick Room became even more lethal for my any sort of opponent of it, really. Redirector, Trick Room Setter, you've got so much support in terms of what it can and can't do for its partner Pokemon. It even has some disruption, and the typing, of course, of normal Psychic means it's immune to ghost types whilst also being able to be a Psychic type. Now, Psychic Surge brings the terrain. It's going to be able to enable my Sneasler, give it what is essentially doubling of its speed at the proc of a item in the form of, let's say, in this case, a Psychic Seed. Gives it a +1 in special defense. You've got an absolute demon with a redirection of right by its side. So yeah, there was a case for me to try to chase down male Ndidi. I think Juancho got male Ndidi straight after I got female Ndidi, because I was like, okay, this is the moment I need to get it, because he's gonna try to snipe me out, isn't he? So I was able to beat him to it. Boo! Win for me. But yeah, I think I had to get it. Because it was a very vital part of my strategy. Now, with that being said, I don't think anything else needs to be said. You know female Ndidi. It's a usual client into the business of which is hard Trick Room. And yeah, if you didn't think I was gonna go for Trick Room, you don't know me. Because if there's a format I can run Trick Room in and it's viable, I'm gonna do it. It's gotten me results, so I'm gonna do it again. And that's kind of the point with this. But at least I'm trying to find, a bit of double scale sort of scenarios of maybe I could have my Sunroom, archetype back and all that stuff, and have a bit more flexibility and not be so one-dimensional to every opponent. But there are tricks to be had. Now, moving on. My 9th Pokemon, this is going to be my second free agent, is Armarouge, baby! Now, this is a Pokemon I was extremely hyped with, wanting to draft. Now, I may or may not have drafted it the first time, and this may or may not have been a trade. I clearly am saying it's a trade with trying not to say it's a trade, and I've just said that it's a trade. So, yeah, I traded, but it was part of the strategy. Trust. It was all part of deceiving people in the process of picking the Mons. Now, fire typing, psychic typing, clearly I'm going for Psy Spam. But with the Tortle, obviously now I've got a very oppressive Sun mode and fire type damage sweepers essentially. And it's great because Armarouge, I think, is one of the best Pokemon for draft, in all honesty. Now, it has a lot of coverage. It's got quite a stack full of utility moves. Trick Room, obviously. E-Force, obviously. Now, it's got a signature move called Armor Cannon. It's single type, fire damage. It's sort of like a fire type close combat, in essence. It drops both defenses by 1 stage. And Flash Fire, as well as weak armor as abilities. I'm not going to go into detail to what I can do with this Pokemon, but trust you, me, that it's going to be fun. That's what I'm looking for. I don't care. I'm going for fun. I'm going to try to flip not 1, not 2, not 3, 10 coins. That's at this point, call me addicted. I don't know, but that's what's happening. Now, forget it. I was gonna start breaking it down more. Just look at the base special attack, and it's got a bit of bulk, and watch my weeks when I play with it, and you'll see why I chose it. Now, finally, I have got my penultimate Pokemon being a D tier, Crabominable. I know how to pronounce this, I promise. Crabominable. There we go. Ice type, fighting type. Yes, I'm doubling up on the fighting type, but I do have a Trick Room Sweeper. And this is really good. With a low base speed of 43, it puts itself within a relatively alright spot. 132 base attack. Not much needs to be mentioned there. It's going to hit you very, very hard with its huge fists. And it gets some really cool abilities. Aim to point, it's able to maximize your attack if you do get any crits inflicted onto your Pokemon, which I know a lot of people will relate with me here, but happens quite often on my Pokemon. Even from Mons that don't have Super Light or Scope Lens and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think it might be useful. Who knows? And then Hypercutter, Hypercutter is able to be immune to Intimidate, which is awesome. Iron Fist, further bolstering your punch-based moves, which is amazing. So yeah, I'm hoping to be able to bring this Pokemon and do it justice, as, spoiler alert, it got a Mega Evolution, so, which I still haven't properly seen. I've heard about it, I've gotten spoiled on it, so haha, if you got spoiled, join the club. But yeah, I want to be able to make a good run with this. I think I had done, maybe in 2017, Life Orb under Trick Room, but Gigalith was running around then, and it was such a pain in the butt. So yeah, I'm hoping to be able to bring my boy back. And my final Pokemon, Slowpoke! Galarian form, because a very rude individual stole the Cantonian. Now, what am I doing with this E-tier? There were a couple of other E-tier options, I'm not gonna lie. But for anybody that's not aware, as Boyd made painfully obvious to everyone, even the newer casters in the draft league, which I'm not a fan of, kind of spoiled a bit of the strategy there, is look at the speed. It's 15 base speed. Isn't Torkoal a bit faster than this? Yeah, it is. So point is, you can go through Trick Room shenanigans and actually set up the Torkoal for potentially going for, I don't know, Surf into Weakness Policy into Click the Funny button, which KOs both Pokemon on the other side of the field, and just put another multiplier on it since you can, Terra Fire, and it just does a lot of damage. I think unless there's a Flash Fire Pokemon on the other side of the field, it's probably going to pick up a KO. So it's essentially an enabler. That's what I was looking for here. How can I make Trick Room better? By getting slower Pokemon that could enable my other slow Pokemon. That's kind of what I was doing. Now, the reason why Cantonian Slowpoke is technically better is because of the Oblivious ability, which, at the moment, is something that I do not have access to because of the Galarian form not being able to. And obviously, I do drop the water typing, so technically my Surf is dealing less damage onto the Torkoal, but c'est la vie. That is how it is. So with that being said, that's essentially what Slowpoke's there for. Hopefully, it's going to be able to, prove its worth. and say, hey, I am the better, more superior form of Slowpokes. I don't know, whatever. I'm just running out of stuff to say. Moving on. Those are my 12 mons that I'm going to be taking for Season 2. Cool. Amazing. I'm going to win it. I know it, clearly. Let's give tribute to the Pokemon that were sniped from me. We've got 4 at the minute that I've written down, but I think there were another 2 or 3 that I've kind of forgotten. Whatever. Kicking off with Espathra by Mischievous Necro, coach of the Shoutcasting Sylveons. Would have been so fantastical on my team. I was so annoyed by that. I literally, the turn I was gonna pick it. Now you're gonna tell me you could have picked it the previous one? I was like, no, because I avoided getting sniped because Juancho was trying to go and get more of the Psy spam going on his side. No. So, Netra, I'm watching you. And I'm very sad. My Espathra is gone. It was never mine to begin with, but it really felt it. It belonged on this team. Second, Palosand. What? Palosand? You'll see why in the next section where I'm going to be talking about grace period trades. Osiris. Southwest Scroll Bunnies. I'll have a word with you, mate. Don't worry. Next time I see you soon. Soon. I'll see you soon. Don't worry about it. It's all good. I'll explain Palosand after. Third, Iron Crown. Juancho. Coach of the Filipino Fennekin's. Why, mate? Why? Can't I have a Paradox Pokemon? Can I not have my Psy Spam Paradox Pokemon? No, apparently I can't. Cool. Sorry, Juancho. I hope you enjoy it. With your little Tachyon Cutter. Which is amazing. One of the best moves in the bloody game. But it's fine. Alright. I'll have to do it my way. It's not even my way. If it was my way, I would have had Iron Crown. I'm jealous. Number 4. I kind of said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. Cantonian Slowpoke. Why'd you have to do it, boy? Why? I literally chose Slowpoke Gala form right after you picked the Cantonian. Because I was going for the Cantonian. But you had to go and get a Pokemon that doesn't even fit with your team. Okay, cool. You do that. Boit. Coach of Boit. It's a weird name. Anyways. Alright, cool. Now that we're over with the Snipe Mons and I've gotten a bit of angst off my chest, let's talk a bit about the grace period trades. What I meant by it is, you're probably hearing me just spam grace period and all that stuff, thinking about, I'm talking about, I don't know, like this woman called Grace, or, wow, I shouldn't have gone down that path. So, grace period is 24 hours after the draft ends. You are allowed to make as many free, truly free, no points required trades with any remaining Pokemon in the draft pool. At this point, I'd been subject to quite a few snipes. So I don't know, I was losing a lot of patience, my friend. And I felt like I needed a bit of a change. I needed a bit of grass to touch outside. And then I thought about it. I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go all the way with trying to force mind games with my opponents because I had enough. I was fed up of being sniped, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna chuck so many different lights and duos and combos in your face, you're not gonna know which one to look at first. So I switched 6 of my 12 Pokemon. 6. Because of the snipes. Because people, and then when I made the trades, the other coaches are, ha ha ha, lol, what is the point of drafting? Ha ha ha. It's kind of like you didn't even need to do the draft because it didn't matter. I mean, partially true. But it was only because of the snipes. Or was it? Or was there some strategy to be had there. No, it was just the slimes. So let's just break it down because enough of my rambling. I'm fed up of it. We have got 6 mons. The Armor Rouge I got because I dropped Hattering, my psychic fairy reliant spammer, which is amazing. It has magic guard, it's got whatever you want, but I wanted to be able to have more versatility when it came to the draft sort of angle of competitiveness, right? And my opponents, which I had scouted out, had quite a few things that would have annoyed Hatterene. So I thought, okay, let me just annoy them. And that's why I went for Armor Rouge. B tier, my Hisuian Typhlosion now used to be a Greninja. Yeah, Greninja. Yeah, you heard right. What? Why a Greninja? Because of the Palossand. Yeah, for anyone newer to the VGC game, there was this very toxic combination between Water Shuriken users, obviously Greninja, sometimes Smeagol. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. If Smeagol was legal, I would have definitely got it. You use Water Shuriken Priority +1 into Water Compaction Palossand, which is a ghost ground typing, which I was a big fan of, obviously. And then all of a sudden, you've got potential minimum, what is it? +4 defense or +6 max, because you're guaranteed 2 hits from Water Shuriken. Each water type move going into Water Compaction Palossand gives it +2 in its defense. And then you could have Weakness Policy proc, and then you could have Shore Up to recover, and you've got so many great options. But no, Lee had to randomly get Palossand when he already had a ground type. He had Landorus. Make it make sense. Ghost type? Maybe, but that's a stretch. It's a big stretch. But it was a great E tier, that being the Palossand. So that is why I got Greninja. And generally speaking, it's great. It's got protein. It's able to have the water dart typing. Great coverage in terms of all the different elemental moves, as well as its speed tiering, which is fantastico. But with that being said, moving on. Third grace period trade was the Hisuian Zoroark brought onto the team because I dropped the Jump Love. And that's because of the bit of a quick 1-2 changes of getting the Skiploom, which I'm just going to go into right here. I got the Skiploom, and then I dropped Greedent, which I had originally drafted. Greedent, great Trick Room user in terms of damage sweeper. You've got belly jump set up and whatnot, but I want to be able to capitalize off having more potent Pokemon in higher tiering, and then still have that role of Tailwind, Redirection, Chlorophyll user. And I felt like Skiploom made a lot of sense. It was E tier, the lowest tier, budget, super budget, and I think it's going to work wonders, I hope. We shall see if it connects sleep powders or not. Next, Grafaiai, which used to be a Magnezone. I'm a bit sad of this one, I'm not going to lie. Magnezone is really good. Electric Steel typing. I was able to sort of find the Alolan Dugtrio to be able to maybe cover the steel aspect of it. I have had to drop electric typing. Magnezone could have been a phenomenal Trick Room sweeper, as well as just outside of Trick Room. But I felt like Grafaiai, there was a lot going for it in terms of utility, with the Prankster ability as an option, and some other choices too, which better suited my team and didn't feel as disjointed. And finally, the Daxpan. I brought Daxpan in and dropped what I had originally drafted, being the Jotonian Typhlosion. Evident, because of the reshuffle, I just wanted to make sure that I can play smart in terms of having certain combinations. Really, it was the A-B tiers, which are like the most important, but then everything else is sort of extra. And at least that's what I'm going to try to go with in terms of having Daxpan strategies applied to the combinations of, like the lava plumes of the world. You got other stuff as well, I'm not going to mention, but, that's the most obvious thing. So, yeah, those were my grace period trades. Let me know what you think from all of the mons that I drafted, really. Like, if you hate them, sure, that's fine. You can hate them. I will probably hate them too when they start missing moves. So yeah, join the club. But for now, I'm happy with the kind of play style I'm going with. The bit of a trickster, a bit of a illusionist in certain aspects. So yeah, we shall see how it goes. I'm very excited for it. I am very humble to be able to host this alongside Bubba and have all of the different caster coaches join us. So make sure to tune in for more with what will not be week 1. We have got the bye because we don't have 16 coaches. We've got 14. However, week 2 will be back against none other than my good old client, Mr. Boyd of the Boyd team, of which we've got a bit of bad blood, if you haven't already noticed and realized. That being, I may or may not have ridiculed him in season 1. So, if you want to check that out, make sure to go to his channel and leave a comment telling him how washed he is. And maybe check mine out as well when I eventually upload them. Anywho, that's been us. Toodle doos. Bye bye. See you next time.